Good morning, Grace. Welcome to our first season of Grace sermon. I was recently reading a new biography of Theodore Geisel called Becoming Dr. Seuss. I discovered that he counseled writers of children's books to try to address at least one of the 7 needs of children as they wrote. The 7 were: a need for security, a need to belong, a need to love and be loved, a need to achieve, a need to know, a need for aesthetic satisfaction, and a need for change. My mind started turning. These are not just children's needs, they're all of our needs all through our lives. They are the needs of the child within us all. I thought, why not preach on these needs during our season of grace? Then, why not use children's stories, some by Dr. Seuss, in the services? And how perfect that our season of grace offering this summer is going to the Boys and Girls Club of Statesville, who is at work trying to meet the needs of our children during the pandemic. So here we go. The theme of the season is Our Needs Are Holy to God. The schedule: June 7, the need for security. June 14, the need to love and be loved. June 21, the need to belong. June 28, the need to achieve. And on this Sunday, we will also honor our graduates and our students of all ages. July 5th, the need to know. July 12th, the need for beauty. And July 19, the need to change and grow. So today, the need for security. For children and for teens and for adults of all ages and for the community in which we live. Our needs are holy to God. Sometimes we shy away from our own needs and even try to hide them. The word needy is a negative word in our minds, but God doesn't think so. Our needs are holy to God. God comes to meet our needs and appoints people like us to help meet these needs in others. As I began to think about security, the word safety came first to mind. And then, because of the terrible times in which we now live, the safety of people of color, young and older. We know of the quote-unquote talk parents of black children have to have with them about how to conduct themselves in public so to avoid racial violence. It takes my breath away, but not the same as George Floyd dying, crying out, "I can't breathe," as the policeman's knee was on his neck. The first text that came to my mind was Micah 4, 1 through 4. The words echo the words of Isaiah, which we often hear during Advent. People flowing up God's holy mountain, hearing God's wisdom. Swords beat into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks. And they would learn war no more. Then the last words that went straight to my heart. They shall sit under their own vines and fig trees, and no one shall make them afraid. Someone has counted the number of times in the Bible God says to us, "Be not afraid." 365 times. one for each day of the year. We need to hear that every day, don't we? But more than just the words, we need the reality of it every day, the conditions which shield us from fear. In 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt delivered one of his most important speeches to the Congress and to the American people. We were not at war yet, but it was drawing closer. He outlined what he called the 4 freedoms. The freedom of speech and oppression, the first. The second, the freedom of worship. The third, the freedom from want. And fourth, the freedom from fear. And he meant these not only for our nation, but for all nations. Norman Rockwell, at that time, painted a picture of freedom from fear. 2 parents tucking their 2 children in at night. We would wish something like this for all children. A child needs to feel safe, be safe. But the freedom from want goes hand in hand with the freedom from fear. The famous psychologist Maslow developed what he called our hierarchy of needs. It is pictured as a triangle with the most basic needs at the bottom of the triangle. He theorized that the most basic needs need to be met first before we proceed to the next level of needs. Guess what the most basic need was? Even before the need for security and safety. Our physiological needs: water, food, warmth, and rest. Freedom from want sets the stage for growth to the next stage, the need for safety and security. Our needs are holy to God, and physiological needs come first. God's commands in the Hebrew Scriptures had to do with meeting these needs, and with special regard for the most vulnerable in the society: widows, orphans, strangers, or immigrants. For example, there was the command to leave extra grain and other foods unharvested so that the most vulnerable people could come and glean from the fields and have enough to eat. That's how Ruth and her widowed mother-in-law Naomi were able to make it. And in the Gospels, Jesus came meeting our needs because our needs were holy to God. He fed the hungry multitudes. He healed the sick. He gathered children to himself, lifting them up and lifting up their esteem. And he reminded us that God is calling us to do the holy work of caring for them, for the hungry, the thirsty, the sick, the unclothed, the immigrant, and the prisoner. So we are back to the needs of children and us all. The needs for food, water, warmth, and rest, safety, and security. This is the calling of parents and the importance of the family. To provide food and water, warmth and rest, safety and security. And we provide for our children's spiritual and emotional needs as well, for safety and security. Tucking them in at night, reading to them, listening and talking with them, holding them close. So too the church as the family of faith, welcoming children, cherishing them and delighting in them, creating a safe place for them to be and to grow. And what of others' children? The Islamic version of the Golden Rule is a beautiful one to me. It says, a person does not have faith unless they love for their neighbor what they love for themselves. So, support for public schools and for its teachers and staff is an important way to provide for the safety and security of children, especially in our day where the public support for public education is on the decline. Here at school, children are taught, loved, fed. For some children, it is the safest place they know. And also for ministries like ICM and Fifth Street that help children and parents and adults to be free from want and free from fear, where people can come and have a safe place to rest and have food on their table. We have these needs for security and safety as adults too, don't we? Some moment of stress or crisis comes and suddenly we feel like a little child again, afraid again, unsafe again, unsure again. Have you ever wanted to go home, get in bed, pull the covers over your head and stay there for a while? I have. If a person has not had these basic needs met in their home and with their parents, they have less resilience when times of crisis or stress come. There are too few down deep reservoirs of safety and security, and even more so when they have suffered abuse. I was given the grace of parents who provided for me, held me, who tucked me in at night, sometimes rubbing my back as I went to sleep. So when I heard the words from Scripture, the eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms, my spirit felt resonance with those words. No matter what our experiences are while young, we all have our places of vulnerability and insecurity. Church is a place where we can love one another in our insecurities and vulnerabilities. And let us keep Statesville in mind, where too many children go to bed hungry at night, go to school afraid in the morning, who live with more fear and insecurity than we can imagine. Their needs are holy too, and we can be God's help to them. We can work together to make Statesville a better place for all our children. There is a scene in Matthew's Gospel near the end of Jesus' life. Jerusalem was in more trouble than it wanted to admit or address. Jesus would soon be killed as a public scapegoat of their fears and trouble. Scapegoating a person or a group of persons is a particularly vicious and virulent form of human evil, and it goes on all the time. Jesus at that moment wept over Jerusalem and said, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that stones the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing." Here is the motherhood of God at work. seeking to give shelter and safety to all her children. Our needs are holy to God. So come, mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, and join in this holy work of God. The passage of Scripture that expresses most that our needs are holy to God is our most beloved psalm, Psalm 23. Perhaps that is why we love it so much. God, our shepherd, comes to us to feed, to guide, to protect, to walk with us in the scariest of places, and to surround us with goodness and mercy. There are hundreds of hymns and anthems based on this psalm. Isaac Watts, the father of English hymnody, composed 3 versions of this psalm with 3 different musical settings. My favorite is this: my shepherd will supply my need. Here is the last verse. The sure provisions of my God attend me all my days. O may thy house be my abode, and all my work be praise. There would I find a settled rest, while others go and come. No more a stranger or a guest, but like a child at home. You can sing that at my funeral or any day.